Welcome to DrupalEasy Show and Tell, where I attempt to use or do something in Drupal that I've never used or done before. Now, demoing things like this is something I've been doing for years during DrupalEasy office hours. DrupalEasy Show and Tell is a little bit different. I've got some expert help. Each episode, I'll have a guest that just so happens to be a subject matter expert for whatever it is that I'll be playing with. Now, before we begin, I want to make sure you know about our live online classes. We have regularly occurring sessions of our 2-week professional single directory components class, as well as our 15-week professional module development class and our 12-week Drupal Career Online beginner focused course. For specific dates and pricing, you know what to do. Head on over to DrupalEasy.com. Hey everybody, welcome back, or welcome to DrupalEasy Show and Tell, where I play with something newish that either I don't know too much about or I haven't used at all. So today is going to be the storage entities module from Martin. Hey Martin, how are you?
Great to be here, Mike. Thanks.
You work for Acquia, you do cool things, you write a lot of modules, you're on Talking Drupal, you're Canadian, great facial hair. I mean, that about it?
I think later this year will be my 20-year anniversary of starting to use Drupal.
Oh boy, should get a cake. Yes, I think I had mine not too long. I think mine was this year at some point.
Okay.
And I just saw on social media someone else. I think it was, oh gosh, I'm going to say his name. I hope I'm right. I think it was Josh Mitchell, the old, I don't want to say old, but one of the previous Drupal Association CTOs. I
Yes.
think I saw him post on social media. He just hit his 20th as well. So one more year.
Right.
It's party
Yeah.
time. One more year. All right. So storage entities. I was flabbergasted when someone told me about this module not too long ago. For two reasons. Number one, I've wanted something like this for a while because I use field collection in Drupal 7. And it is similar to field collection as you wrote here. And number two, because you and I hang out and this never came up that this module exists. Or if it did, I wasn't paying attention, which we'll give 50-50 that on that one. So how'd you describe this? If I'm going to give you let's say 20 seconds to describe this module.
All right, time starts now. So what I would say is storage entities are really useful when you have things that you want in your Drupal database to manage as entities that don't need to be nodes. So the thing is, nodes have a lot of overhead in terms of, they're designed to have a URL associated. There's a lot of hooks that fire whenever you create a node. There's, all kinds of ways that people may not want the extra overhead attached to small bits of data that oftentimes could be like nested, like attached to different things. So like as an example, I've worked on a municipal site where they would have an events calendar, and oftentimes the events would have, contact information. And so you wouldn't, because they weren't sort of people who worked for the municipality, you wouldn't necessarily want that as stored as like people in the actual site database, as kind of like person entities or what have you. But having people as contact entities within the municipal site meant that you could attach them either to individual events, or you could say, make those reusable. So if the same people organize, half dozen events throughout the year, you don't have to put that in every time. You can just sort of look that up and reattach it to a new event that they might be organizing. So it's, it came out of a time when lots of people were sort of ramping up their modern Drupal usage, but field collection was kind of a notable omission in terms of something that was available within the community. So I had built one site where I had used the entity construction kit, but at that time it was kind of alpha, and it also felt a little more ambitious than what I felt like I needed. I just
not even close to 20 seconds. Not even close. But go ahead.
No, I've totally gone off. I started with the thing and then went, okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. Listen, I'm going to take all the time I want.
All right. So My first question when someone told me about this module,
Sure.
and I'm sure you've heard this a million times or been asked, is like, how is it different from paragraphs?
Well, for one thing, all of the storage entities are native Drupal entities, which is different from paragraphs. Paragraphs has kind of its own system. I gather it's partly a historical thing because they wanted to get paragraphs implemented in Drupal 8 before
Right,
the whole entity system was kind of fully baked in Drupal 8. So it's partly that. And then, I don't use paragraphs a ton, but, there's
right,
a bunch of things around sort of, orphaned entries and different things that are reasons why some people don't like to use paragraphs. So I
all
had
right,
gone down the approach of creating a custom entity type using Entity Construction Kit. At the time, that was kind of an alpha, but also felt really ambitious in terms of wanting to define not just the bundles, but the actual custom types, which may
mhm,
or may not have labels. And there was a bunch of decisions that you made that you wouldn't necessarily understand the ramifications of until much further down the road of using those, which
yeah,
is an interesting challenge
yeah,
when you run those modules.
right,
And then the other approach that I had used on a different project was kind of using Drush to scaffold out a fully custom entity. And that was a lot of work, a lot of sort of very typical things like when you're used to using nodes and taxonomy terms and all of those
yeah,
things, you have to build your own list and like all of these different things that you
yep,
just kind of want out of the box.
right,
And you're not really adding value for a lot of the, sort of more simple storage use cases.
right,
And so got talking with a group of colleagues and we kind of said, well, what if we just took a custom entity that had been implemented and kind of made that more reusable? And so that's where the idea of storage entities came from, was really just sort of saying, let's have a custom entity type that, isn't nodes, isn't taxonomy terms, but just something where if you just want to store data, you can use these storage entities and create bundles for the different kinds of things that you need to store.
all right. Well, let's do it. So I've never installed it. I've never done anything with it. So I've got a fresh Drupal 11 site here. Or mostly fresh, I should say. I just updated it like a half hour ago.
Good.
And my idea was I want to create a storage entity for menu items, restaurant menu items. So restaurant menu item in my imaginary world is going to have a photo. It's going to have a name, a description, and a price. And
Okay.
then we can use that storage entity on a node for like a breakfast menu and a lunch menu or dinner menu or something. But the thing I want to store is a menu, restaurant menu item.
Got
So
it. So have you created the sort of menu content type?
I haven't done
Okay.
anything. No.
Got it.
This is, so I do this sort of thing during DrupalEasy office hours all the time, where someone asks me about something and I haven't used it. And I'm like, well, let's do something with it. So
Cool.
that's what we're going to do. So DDEV composer require Drupal slash storage underscore entities, I assume.
No, it's just storage actually.
Just storage. Okay, so right off the bat, that's a pet peeve of mine, Martin. Look at that. I don't like it when the module label is different than the URL like that. So that's a demerit, permanent record type of thing.
All right.
Good luck sleeping tonight. Yeah, keep you up all night now. All
I'll be wearing the hair shirt, so
right. You were nice enough to roll a release today. So
I will.
that was very kind of you. All right, so we got it. Beta. Well, I'm just gonna assume Drush en storage. So are there 37 submodules that I'm gonna have to consider, or is it all pretty self-contained?
There's one submodule. So
All right, so if I go here, is it rabbit hole storage entities integration? Okay, so that's fairly self. Am I on? Oh, well, I don't have rabbit hole installed.
right.
So by default, does this mean that there will be a URL for every storage entity?
So
Like if I create a restaurant menu item, is there going to be your URL where that's accessible without rabbit hole installed?
So there is an option for each bundle, each
Okay.
storage bundle that you create, where you can basically say, there's a checkbox to say, should this be directly accessible for
Okay.
the
Perfect.
entities that you create? So you can disable that to turn it off. That just means they're not accessible. You can still use it with Rabbit Hole if you
Right.
want when people try and access that to be like redirected
Redirected.
someplace,
All right.
smart. So
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, we'll just go with that. All right. So I'm gonna guess under structure, maybe storage types, add storage type. I'm gonna go with restaurant menu item. But so the name field, like what do you call a restaurant item? I guess just an item, right? If I'm looking like what are you gonna order? I'm gonna order this dish or
yeah.
plate, a dish maybe? Maybe dish. Thinking
All
like
right.
when I'm looking at a menu, what do I call each thing?
I mean, it doesn't really matter, I think, for
Yeah.
the how it's stored. So if you wanted to change it
Right.
later, it's totally fine.
Oh no, this is the next 25 minutes of me deciding. This is what this is all about. Plate. I mean, title or name. Well, I guess I'm gonna go with item name. All right, we're gonna leave it at that. Pattern for automatic name generation. So is this a thing that is only, it's like a path? Oh no, pattern for automatic name generation.
So you may
Yeah,
be
yeah.
familiar with the module. I want to say it's called Auto Entity Label.
Yep,
It's,
yep.
it's got those three names. I might have the
Right.
order
Entity
mixed
auto
up.
label, label, entity auto.
Right.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, yeah. So there's kind of like lightweight similar logic in here
Okay.
where if you if you don't want people to have to put in a name, so example, like, again, going back to the idea of like person, you could have fields for first and last name, put in a pattern here that, creates that as one sort of
All
assembled
right.
piece, and
Okay.
then hide the name field.
All
So you
right.
kind of get like a lightweight version of that.
All right. I'm gonna leave that as is. This is that checkbox you were just, oh no, this is the one you were talking about.
Right.
Allow direct viewing. This I actually read on the project page, so this is pretty cool. So you can set this up so that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that if the, say you use this on a node, if you can make it so that every time that node is saved, the storage entity can get a new revision, even if the node doesn't, or vice versa. Like you can kind of decouple whether or not it's getting a new revision. Am I understanding that right?
So I believe, and again, this is sort of whatever the default behavior for Drupal is. I have
Okay.
a feeling it's more that, you know, because it's just a relationship, it
Right.
wouldn't create a revision by default.
Right.
But if you had like entity, what is it? Entity revisions relationships
Entity
installed,
reference revisions.
that's the one.
Yeah. Okay.
ERR, I knew it was that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have that installed, it can do that if you want to have a
Okay.
revision every time you save the parent.
All right. All right. I'm gonna leave these. Those are default. So really, the only thing I added here was a type label and a form label. All right.
Yep.
So save and manage fields. Okay. So this is, this is friendly territory here. So I'm gonna say, well, we got a label field for free, right? So that
Yes.
would be the name. All right. So really, I just need a description field. I'm gonna keep things simple and just description and keep everything plain text here. Right, one value. Sure, require it, save it. New field, we're gonna need a price, so we're gonna do a number. I think a decimal price. And we'll just say that this is gonna happen here. Well, I guess the Canadian, you guys use the dollar sign as well, right?
Yep.
There you go, Canadian restaurant. Um, Save that, and then we need an image field. So I don't have media installed, so that's okay. I'll just do photo. Um, to change anything? No, I'm not going to make it restaurant. That's spelled wrong. Restaurant, man, that's a hard word for me at least. Menu items slash. Okay. Save that. Okay, so we'll just worry about IA for now. I'm not going to dig into the form or display.
Sure.
Okay, so now is it possible? Can I go to? I'm going to go up here to storage types in the breadcrumbs. Can I create? So I can't create. I can't like create a taco here. That's what I was just checking, and that's fine.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to create a new content type here real quick, and we're going to call it a menu. Spell that right. Take the default values, and I want to create a new field. I'm guessing it's going to be a reference field of some type.
Yep.
And storage. Okay, so we'll call this a menu item.
Probably plural, I would think.
Menu items, okay. Ba-ba-bum. And I want like my breakfast menu to have multiple items, so I'm assuming that has to be unlimited. And I'm going to guess down here. Okay, if I had different storage entity types, then I'd have more checkboxes. I might as well just check this anyway. I don't think it's going to matter either way. And we'll say a menu does have to have at least one of those. And yeah, sort by no. Save that. Okay, so I'm gonna guess that if we just go to, let's see, if I go to manage form display, let me just take a peek at what's there. So it's autocomplete. Is this the type of thing where I would want, oh, did I add this or was this a dependency?
That's a good question. I don't remember adding that as a dependency, but let's check real quick.
Because this was going to be like my question as far as, okay, does it have its own widget or am I using inline entity form or something else?
Yeah, no. So in general, I would say wherever there's an opportunity to leverage an existing solution,
Yeah.
particularly in core, but inline entity form is pretty widely used in the
Yeah.
community. So I'm definitely going to lean that way.
Okay. Any reason we need the complex one? Does complex get us the extra
I feel like
add?
complex is, yeah, where you can sort of have the screen where you can choose between like add an existing
Existing.
one or create a
Yeah.
new one.
I'm gonna do simple first. I'll probably come back and change it just so we can see. And
Sure.
I'll take the default stuff there. I'm gonna drag this up to the top just so it's easier to see. And I think just to save time, I'm not gonna worry about display. Um, because, and I kind of zoomed past it, I saw it briefly, but so this annoys me about gin here that now I can't get to it. So now
Do
I've
you
got to go
have, yeah, okay, yeah.
structure. Yeah, don't distract me from the, don't just, how dare you? Yeah, so, we've got a view mode here. So I've been teaching a lot of single directory components. This feels like a nice opportunity for a single directory component for the storage entity for the display. But we're not going to dive into this. Well, I want to focus on the IA side of things a little bit more. So we'll go to menu. We'll get a deprecated rat. What's rat? Is that me? No, that's entirely possible that I have something on this site that,
Let me try looking that up on Drupal.org real quick.
yeah, what do I have installed here that would be rat? Uh,
Render array tool.
do I have that? Render? I don't
Looks
have
like
that.
that is super weird. Vendor Drupal.
All right, well, this is deprecated stuff, so okay, we're
Okay.
gonna just pretend that's not there. Breakfast menu. So let's do one with the simple. I'll switch it. So, what's your favorite breakfast there, Martin?
Oh, let's go eggs Benedict.
Eggs Benedict. So this is like it's like poached eggs, right? Poached eggs with that cream sauce on it and cheese.
And usually on like an English muffin or something like that.
Poached eggs with cheese and cream sauce on an English capitalized, I guess,
May as well.
muffin. Yeah. And what's the going rate? That's kind of a fancy breakfast there. So we're gonna say that's like 9.99 at least. And now my favorite part is I've got to go to eggs Benedict, and we're gonna go to images, and go to all licenses, public domain. I'm sure the first one. Oh, there we go. That's a pretty one right there. And can I? Oh, how do I view it? There we go. And save to downloads. Not going to do this for every image, but I do want to. Thanks, Benedict. There we go. Okay. But okay. Well, you know what? Oh, that's going to be the alt text. All right. So I'm going to add another one. So yeah, so there is no opportunity to choose an existing, and that's what we're going to get with the complex in a moment. But
Right.
um, I'm a big avocado toast guy.
Living the
So
high life.
what's that?
Living the high life.
Exactly. Avocados, tomatoes, and basil on fresh bread. I think, depending on the price of avocados, depending on the day of the week, right? Okay. Oh, so okay, so we are only getting, so that's interesting. I expected it to see all the fields by default, but that's fine. So let's go back to storage types. Oh, and again, I've got to let's
So that's actually more a function of the reference field, which is on the content type.
all right. So if we go to menu, manage fields, manage display. Oh, right. Yeah, we want rendered entity there. Yes, correct.
Yep,
And I guess we don't need that. Okay. Yes. Correct, correct, correct. Okay. So yeah, so now this is where a nice single directory component could take all this stuff and make it all pretty.
totally.
All right. So from here, let's go back to structure. So, I'll admit I kind of expected to see a place where I can get a list of all of them. And maybe that's just a view that I can create easily enough, right?
So there's a couple of options. So number one, if you go to the content admin page, there's a tab for your storage data.
Okay, that's good enough. All
There
right.
is also another module called, let me just look it up here. I think it's
Yep.
Auto Grid, something like that. Content Auto Grid, um, where you can have, I think that's too many underscores, but
I love underscores though.
I think actually the machine name I think might even be just Auto Grid. So
Oh man, 0 for 2.
go big or go home. That's my favorite. There you go.
Look at the maintain. Okay, well now we see where the problem lies, at least.
That's right.
The
Problem
commonality.
exists between keyboard and chair for sure.
Yeah.
So
All right.
so that's the idea. Is basically it gives you almost that CRUD style listing.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And it's also per bundle. So it becomes like a
Okay.
tab on the bundle screen where you can sort of see all those things listed. It actually uses a view mode of the bundle in terms of what columns that you want to see and in what order. So it
Oh,
becomes like very easy to like
yeah.
customize exactly what you want to show
Nice.
in there, all that stuff. So
Nice. All right, so let me
it,
just put that on. So content auto grid, machine name just auto grid. All right. I'm gonna stay focused here though. Um, all right, so let's go back and so let's pretend that I want to eat avocado toast for lunch as well. So let's create a lunch menu. And so with the simple inline entity form simple, there's no way to choose an existing. So I'm just going to save. Oh, I can't save it. All right, that's all right. Well, I'm going to come back to, let's see, we'll go back to structure, content types, manage fields, manage form display, and change this to complex. I think, yeah, new storage entities can be added. Existing storage entities cannot be referenced. Oh, well, no, we definitely want to reference new ones. Allow users to add existing storage entities. Allow you to duplicate storage entities. So this might be a good use case if we want to charge more for Eggs Benedict at lunch than we do at breakfast, right? So, um,
Yeah, I mean, as you said, there's lots of
different ways to do
potential ways. I mean, the
it.
downside there is if you ever want to update the photography, then you've got like two separate
Well,
places to do that.
all
But
right, we'll keep
yeah,
that one off for now. But we do want to add and we want to add new as well as existing. So we'll save that. So that was on the menu content type, the widget for our menu items, which is a reference field. So now if we come over to add a menu, yeah, there we go. Okay, so lunch menu. So add new storage, add existing storage. So is there a way to change? Actually, there is a way, right? Isn't there a
yep.
there's a label in here?
So there's yeah, it's the second
Override
option there.
label.
Yeah.
Right, right, right. So add menu item, menu items. I always forget about that until I actually look at it. And literally what I just did there is what I do 99% of the time. Yeah, add new menu item, add existing menu item. Okay, so I probably would uncapitalize the M, but I'm not going to do that right now. Lunch menu, add existing, and autocomplete. So if we'll do avocado toast. Uh-oh. Why did that was weird. AV. Did I do AVA? I may have done AVA. Yeah, that's okay. So avocado toast, add that, add a new one. What'd you have for lunch today, Martin?
I had mulligatawny soup.
Yeah, well, you just made that up. What kind of soup?
Mulligatawny.
Mulligatawny
I think
soup?
it's AWNY at the end.
AWNY. Oh, I'm gonna regret asking this question, but what's in mulligatawny soup?
It's a long list. Just call it an Indian inspired soup. It's probably enough for.
Indian inspired. Is it spicy?
No, it
Oh,
actually had apples in it. At least this one recipe that we had.
oh,
So yeah,
all right. Is it all vegetarian? Is there meat in there, or is it all vegetarian?
I think this one had chicken, but also some tofu. So if you wanted, you could have just the tofu or
So it's a
whatever. So
hearty soup, like it's a meal.
yeah, there's lentils and rice and a few other
Oh
things
man,
in
all
there.
right,
So
that does
yeah,
sound good. All right, and you went to a restaurant for that today?
no, that was leftovers at home.
Oh man, all right. That sounds very nice. I'm gonna go 12.99 for that. We're not gonna do a photo. So we added an existing one. We added a new one. I have to create it, and then we save, and boom, we've got our lunch menu with our existing one right there and our new one right there. All right. I think that, I mean, that seems like the 80%. What you said earlier is, I think bears repeating is that, this is using, all Drupal core stuff. It's a fieldable entity. So with views, it's going to be, exactly what we think it is. I mean, we can just point to it real quick. If we go to views, add a view, we can, I'm guessing, yeah. So you can create a view based on storage entities there. Um, what other use cases have you seen that are interesting or integrations with other modules or anything that deserves a mention?
Um, I mean, so one of the things that I learned about after creating this is the newer module called, I think it's like custom field, something
Yes.
like that.
Yep.
And so I think that's really interesting. If I'm completely honest, if that had existed when I started working on storage, um, I'm not sure if I would have, as vigorously gone down the path because it does solve a lot of the same use cases. I think there's a couple of reasons why you still might want to use storage. So, number one is that custom field, as I understand it, has to have sort of widgets defined for whatever kind of field that you want. So, you can't just use any kind of field within a
Yeah.
custom field. So there's, as long as it's fairly simple use cases, or at least, supported by one of the things that they've actually written into the module, you can use those. Um, and I'm sure that that list will grow over time. The other thing is that, as I understand it, custom field works better for data that is specifically tied to the parent entity. So, again, thinking about that idea of like the event calendar where you want to reuse data between different events, custom field, as far as I know, wouldn't be able to do that. That it's sort of like it's always a child of the parent entity. It's basically it becomes a field of it essentially. So it's field level data that's sort of directly descendant of that parent.
Can you, with custom field, can in views, can you pull out individual subfields from it? I haven't used it lately, so I don't. And I see that. I mean, there's this, but this provides the ability to reference and display view. So this is not what we're talking about. Um, yeah, I don't know. But that's not the module we're talking about today. So maybe this will be
That's right.
a future DrupalEasy show and tell, you know?
There you go.
There you go. All right. All right. Did I miss anything? Do you think we got it all?
I think that's pretty good. I mean, as you've said, like if you wanted to be fancier in the presentation, you could use single directory components.
Yep.
All of the standard ways that you might want to, um, you know, optimize the sort of creation experience. You can use all of, there's modules that will add different kinds of widgets to inline entity form. So, you could use all of those. So it really is sort of meant to be sort of as basic as possible in terms of
Right.
plugging that entity system or the entity API into sort of that larger collection of things, and then you can sort of pick and choose what parts of the larger ecosystem around that you want for your information architecture.
All right. Well, super duper. I appreciate your time, my friend.
Always happy to chat.
And thanks for the effort in this module. I think there's a couple use cases where I should have used it if I had been aware of it, but that's on me. That's not on anyone but me. All right, cool. Well, that's it. Let's wrap up this edition of Show and Tell. So thanks, Martin.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Don't forget, if you have a need for professional Drupal training, be sure to check us out at DrupalEasy.com.